Hey everyone, it's David Premer here from Cerebral Selling, and you join me here again in beautiful downtown Toronto. You can see the dome there in the background, CN Tower. You can even see the aquarium right over there with the sharks there on the roof. But what I wanted to do today was give you a really helpful objection handling tactic. Now, oftentimes in the objection handling realm, when a customer launches an objection at us, they say it's too expensive or it'll never be a fit for their environment, or they want to postpone it. Oftentimes we think that as salespeople, we need to be able to defend that objection and come up with a solution to circumvent it, to work around it. But one of the most effective objection handling tactics is what I like to call consider the alternative. Now, this tactic was very famously used by President Ronald Reagan in the 1980 US presidential election. And in that election, in the final debate speech, he was up against Jimmy Carter, who was the incumbent. He basically just said, hey, fellow Americans, ask yourself this question. If you think about how you're doing now compared to 4 years ago, is it easier to buy things at the store? Do you feel more secure? Do you feel that America has a greater position of stature in the world compared to what it did 4 years ago? And if the answer is yes, well, then I think you have, your answer. And if the answer is no, well, there's an alternative. And so the idea behind, and he won, by the way, he won by a lot. And the idea here is when you encounter an objection from your customers is to ask them to simply do the same. Consider the alternative. This has two benefits. Number one, by backing away from the sale a little bit, you make the customer feel more comfortable with you as the seller. It makes them feel that you are not pressuring them in any way. The other piece is it actually gets them to consider what life would be like if they didn't buy your solution. And it would just kind of sound something like this. If you have a customer saying that, hey, look, I love your solution, but I think it's too expensive or it's the wrong time. You might say something like, hey, look, totally understand. I want you to feel this is the right solution and the timing is right for this. And you know what? Maybe it actually makes sense for you not to buy the solution. The question I have for you is, if I'm you, I'm thinking, okay, if I didn't do this, what else would I do? Right? And you can also prime your customer with questions like, would it be easier to grow or scale? Or would this problem go away? Or would it get worse? Or would it actually get better? And the idea is to kind of put yourself in the mind of the customer and get them thinking about the alternative to not going with you. The reality is that if the solution that you are providing or selling or talking about has value, and you've been able to communicate that value, they will understand that value and come back to you as the preferred solution provider, right? People always like their ideas better than they like your ideas. And when you give them space to basically come back to you with a clear head, feeling not pressured to move towards your solution, and yet considering what would happen if they didn't, oftentimes they will be in a much better position to buy. Alternatively, though, if they actually realize, this is kind of the other good part, if they realize that going with your solution or a solution in general is actually not in their best interest, that the problem will actually get better or it's not as big as they thought, well, this actually bodes really well for you because that means you're not going to be wasting your time with a customer who's not likely to buy something at the end of the day. So, my tip for today, objection handling. When faced with an objection, rather than fight that objection head on, ask your customer, take a step back and ask your customer to consider the alternative if they do not go with your solution, and prime them with really good questions. You'll be amazed at how effective that can be as an objection handling technique that puts your customer in the right mindset. That is my objection handling tip for today, and we'll see you next time.